All right, thanks for sharing your garden with us. Now we're going to be taking a completely different look or different angle on gardens, if you will. We're going to be looking at vertical gardens, and we're joined right now by Pat McNeil from Vertical Growing Systems. And Pat, welcome back to the program. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom.
Now, typically, Pat, when you've been on the program in the past, I've thought of you as the native plant guy, growing those cool native grasses, and looks like you're growing the prairie on the side of the barn now.
And that's what it is. You know, it's sort of a logical extension of that. How drought tolerant can you get? And this is what we found is growing plants this way is the least amount of water that a plant can use because we recycle the water. So it's just another extension of that. How little water in a landscape do you need?
Now, to give people an idea of growing plants like this, you brought along a couple of, I don't know what to call them, flats.
Cases, panels.
Casing or panels, okay. Both of which are planted up with monkey grass.
Yeah, just regular old monkey grass.
I see a caladium leaf popping out here.
We put some bulbs in there because it's a little boring for our taste.
Right. So growing plants vertically on a wall, lots of different applications here. But let's talk about the science of it first and the practicality. You already have referenced water savings. How do you make it work as a water-saving device?
Well, it's only using as much water as the plant needs because the whole system is sealed. So there's no evaporation. There's hopefully no drippage. I mean, that's the things that we work on is making sure there's not leaking out the corners. So in that way, where we can dial up the water, dial down the water to see how much they actually need. And then depending on the aspect, whether it's facing west or east, we can reduce the amount of water based on that too. And one of the other parts of that, using the water, since we're recycling water, if we put the basin in the ground, it cools down when it goes there. It actually works like a radiator, is that the cool water gets pumped up, cools the wall down, cools the roots of the plants down, makes its environment cooler. So things that would normally die in the heat, we're hoping that, you know, maybe fuchsias or something like that hates our heat. If we can cool their roots down to 80, 85 degrees, maybe we can continue to grow them here.
Well, you not only cool the plants down and the root zones of the plants, but one of the things I love about this is I'm thinking about just the energy savings potentially in buildings that are faced with living walls.
Exactly, and that's what we're hoping is that you could put these on a wall, the whole system would work to cool the building down. In fact, the ultimate goal of what we're doing is to replace the outer wall of a building with our panels, so that it's that old science fiction idea of a building covered with plants that you see in these futuristic buildings that architects put together.
Right.
That's what we would like to see these things used for.
Okay, well, let's talk about the mechanics of it. You've got these plants, and I have to let the audience know, when you carried these in here, one man could carry one panel.
They're 35 to 40 pounds a piece.
So wet. Very light.
Lightweight. That's the other idea, so that if you're putting them on a structure, you're not having to rebuild the structure or making the structure extra expensive to hold this heavy outer coating.
Right, and with the panels comes replaceability, and you know, I could see taking different plants, different colors, different forms,
mix and match.
Make a mosaic on the side of a building.
Well, and one of the things that we like about them is that there's a drain and an irrigation pipe that comes in the top, drains out the bottom. You unhook those, pull them off the rack, put a new one on there. So we're hoping that within 2 or 3 minutes you can change out a panel. So if you were doing a whole wall, you wanted to change it out, instead of lights, UT could spell out, you know, #1 in burnt orange on the side of their building.
With blooming plants.
Right. If they when they win a national title, they could put
a great big #1.
Great big #1 on the tower.
With orange hibiscus.
Right,
like
there
that.
You go. And so that you could change something out quickly.
Right.
In case there's a problem, or like you said, the owners want to do something different, or you want poinsettias in the fall, you know, we could do all that stuff.
So they're rooted in a kind of sponge-like material,
yeah,
right?
It's a sort of a patented idea that we have, that there's a medium in there that holds water, but it doesn't absorb water. So what it does is it keeps an even humidity. So it's like that old McDonald's thing, the hot side cold and the cold side cold, and you put them together. It's that idea of the plant, and in fact, we're hoping the disease problems we won't have mildew problems, because the water and the moisture is behind the vinyl, and then outside it's going to be dry, so that you won't have leaf downy mildew, powdery mildew, things like that. And so you get the wet side wet, the dry side dry.
Okay.
So things that you rot easier, like lavender, geranium, things like that, you don't have that so much problems with.
Yeah. I mean, my mind is racing thinking about the different kinds of plants I'd like to try in here. How many have you tried?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Between me and John, I mean, we're constantly putting new things in there to see if they, so it's like we put caladiums, there's oxalis that you probably can't see on the bottom of these. We're really just plugging in all kinds of stuff, whatever we can think of. In fact, I was looking at the little sedum behind you going, because we've done some succulent ones too.
Right.
And just the succulent one's actually the easiest to do.
And I could see these being used in many different kinds of ways. We talked about like a curtain wall for a building and the energy efficiency that could come from that, of shading a building down with a living wall. I love the notion of that. But these could be used indoors, right?
Oh yeah. Well, we also think that if you put them flat with about a 5-degree tilt, so they'd be, you could use them as a green roof. So and that's the other thing, you could put them at a slant and grow strawberries in a greenhouse just like hydroponics. One of the ideas is to put them along a freeway, because all the plants have little openings, stomatas, they breathe in and out of those things. They take in carbon dioxide, put out oxygen during the daytime, but also the stomatas will absorb small particles, and the worst air pollution that you get in a city are the smallest particles. They call them PM 2.5 nanometer particles because they lodge so deep in your lungs. That's why they cause emphysema and asthma. The plants will absolutely absorb those because they float in the air. They don't settle out like dust or soot.
Right.
And so those are actually the most dangerous. And plants are actually, there's research to show that they take it out. So one of the things, they can actually be a filter.
Right.
So if you put them on the downtown walls of the buildings or around freeways, you'd get a certain filtering effect.
I love that idea, and I think that the idea of growing. You mentioned strawberries, and I can see that this could be very useful for a wide variety of crops too.
Well, you could do it like in restaurants too. We had a benefit where we had basil and sage, and at this banquet that featured the panels, it just happened. Actually, this is an accident. The buffet line ended up right at the panels. So the people were coming by, and we hadn't even thought of this, but they started saying, people started picking stuff off the wall and put it on their plates. And then I got a pair of clippers and started clipping. Would you like some basil? And because they had little brioches, it was a buffet kind of thing where they had little finger foods. And I started cutting basil and mint and stuff like that. And so it turned out we completely cut those panels up. There was nothing left at the end of the night. There's 200-300 people in there. But so there's those kind of, you could have fresh cilantro in your backyard, or if you just had an apartment, you could put one on the wall in there.
So, I mean, realistically here, you need a pumping device, right?
Very small pump, like an aquarium pump. Doesn't take much pumping. I mean, at first we got these big pumps and we overpumped these things. It was so funny. So what we found out is you could use a real small pump. You could use a small solar panel to pump it, to run it. So you wouldn't have to turn it off. And the thing is, with a little $15 timer to turn the pump on, just use 110 volt, just comes on 3 or 4 times a day at the most.
Wow.
And then you just we just have a little reservoir, 3 or 4 gallon reservoir with some nutrient solution. And the nice thing is we noticed on these that the tips are browning out because all the salts in our waters here. So you could use distilled water, put some vinegar in it to change the pH, lower it a little bit. Then you'd have 6.5, 6 pH on your water. Then you could grow things. You could get it down, and you could even grow blueberries or azaleas, or little creeping somethings, or
lots of, like I said before, my mind is reeling about the different possibilities. And you had mentioned, and I think this is a really cool notion of like using them for seasonal decoration, having panels with poinsettias, for example.
Oh yeah. When you start thinking about what you could have, bulbs or whatever, caladiums have worked. So we're thinking calla lilies might work. There's all kinds of things that you think that you could do seasonal. I've got a bunch of old schoolhouse lilies, oxblood lilies.
I love those.
That would look really nice with the red here, with the dark green. So something like that would work too. So you could have all kinds of seasonal things. And we're thinking that the idea would be, this is more like an indoor trade-out plant.
Right.
Like a mall has plants that they rent from somebody and they change out every once in a while. that'd be the same thing.
Well, Pat, best wishes to you in this new endeavor. It's a blast. I love what you're doing, and I hope you get a lot of attention for the vertical gardens of Central Texas.
Well, thanks for having us.
Okay, it's a real pleasure. And coming up next is our friend Daphne.